We will get the meeting underway here. And so we will do the digits and then we'll make a round of introductions. We can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, got a couple people online this evening, but welcome. Thank you, Mayor Kaiser and Steve Wall for hosting tonight. It's great to see you. Beautiful police station. Great job. Yeah, you're welcome. So those of you I missed, I think the last meeting, but my name is Brian Hodson, the mayor of Andy, your co-chair for C4. Thank you for being here tonight. If you're an alternate and your main member is not here, please feel free to come to the table. Being no one rushing, we'll build you on. Commissioner Salas is online, and he's the other co-chair as illustrious committee of Brain Trust of Clackamas County. So I think he's got some seats later, but he'll be joining in some home and job, right? So we'll just do quick introductions. We'll start to my right with the phone.
Co-chair Diana Fo, have to say.
Second, South Park Water.
Good evening, Dan Isomers with the Port of Portland.
Paul Gornick with Oakland Water Services, representing sanitary districts.
Adam Marl, Oregon City Commissioner. Josh Callahan, City Council, Happy Valley.
Valerie Pratt, London City Council.
Michael Milch, Mayor of Gladstone.
Katie Learn City Staff Liaison C4.
Amber Lauren, CPO.
Todd Wood, Area Transit, representing rural transit districts.
Corey Gelsowski, Mayor of Westland, also acting Council President with me back there. Sean O'Neill, Mayor of Wilson.
Brian Rickline, Mayor of Escatita.
Scott Kaiser, Mayor of Malone.
Oh, I'm Mary Von Berger, City Council President for Western. Jacob Staffing, Clackamas County Chris State and Reduce Policy Manager. Shakes Hanson, and President by Katy City Council President. What's the hell?
Adam Berger, Virginia City.
Yeah. Matt Cordell, Assistant City Wall.
Dan Hudson, Manager of Malone.
Mr. T, City Recorder, Commissioner online. Leona Childress, Malone City Councilor.
Jason City, Small City Council.
Urban Norton, Malone City Council President. Patrick Royal, District Director.
Drew Wilson, Clackamas County Government Affairs.
Paul Scarlett with ODOT.
Art Penny, resident of Malala.
David Parks, Malala Planning Commission.
You're welcome. Okay. And I could see, and one more.
I accept the Malala.
Hi. See the Malala contingent, and I know that behind Mayor Kaiser is the illustrious City Administrator Dan Huff. Thanks, sir, for having us here. Really appreciate it.
Glad to have you.
Should we just launch?
It was a fraud.
Yeah, thank you. All right, moving into housekeeping, just a motion to approve the minutes of the February 5th C4 meeting.
So moved.
Second. Moving in second, is there anyone that doesn't approve the minutes? Sure, those passed, thank you very much. Next up is a welcome from our host tonight.
Wait.
They're collecting. Oh, there's just, yeah.
Sorry, Tony. It is my honor to welcome you to our new state-of-the-art police facility.
I am Mayor Scott Kaiser, and I am proud to stand here tonight in a building that represents far more than brick and steel. It represents commitment, it represents resilience, and it represents the direction of all this city. And I'll just say, it's nice to finally hold an event in a building where we don't have to explain why the walls are so close. Some of you remember Malala prior to 2013, and even further back than that. We faced real challenges, but this community made a decision. We were not going to stay stuck. We were going to rebuild, and we were going to invest wisely, and we were going to move forward. What you are sitting in tonight is proof of that decision. We are not perfect. We face hurdles like every other community does, but Malala is healthy, we are financially disciplined, and we are moving forward with the challenge. Let me share with you a few examples of what that looks like. This police facility. The vision for this project began in 2013 with a former police chief who understood that our officers deserve better and our community requires more. In 2021, we purchased the old Malala property, a building that had sat vacant for years and was beyond saving. I know a few people were hoping we were reopening the lanes, but I promise this is a better long-term investment. Instead of allowing it to continue declining, we reimagined it. Today, the 17,000 square foot facility replaces a station that was just under 2,000 square feet. We even incorporated portions of the original bowling lanes into the lobby. So technically, this may be the only police station in Oregon with a perfect 300 somewhere in the foundation. This project was substantially completed on time in December 2025, and we expect to finish under budget. That is responsible government. And yes, that means somewhere a contractor is probably still wondering what happened. But more importantly, it ensures our police department has the space, equipment, and capacity to serve Malala at the highest level and fully participate in countywide operations. Up next will be Chief Yelkes Park. Chief Henry Yelkes was the last chief of the Malala tribe. Tragically, he was murdered the same day Malala became incorporated, an incorporated city in 1913. This park was designed with that history in mind. We worked closely with the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde to ensure this space honors the culture, roots of this land. Phase 1 completed in September 2025. It includes infrastructure, pedestrian, and bicycle access near the historic Malala Forest Route, educational kiosks, and our coyote playground, which I've been told has already been fully tested by some very enthusiastic children. Phase 2 will add walking paths around the wetlands and native plants and food sources that reflect indigenous traditions. This project reflects partnership, respect, and long-term vision. Our wastewater treatment plant. Our largest investment currently underway is the new wastewater treatment plant. At $52 million, a $52 million project that would serve Malala for decades to come. We are approximately 50% complete. Now, I understand wastewater treatment isn't exactly dinner table conversation, but it is the kind of infrastructure that quietly keeps a city running well. The new sequencing batch reactor and aerobic digesters, saying that a couple times, visible along Highway 211 will allow us to produce cleaner, higher quality treated water while using significantly smaller footprint than our current lagoon system. The plant is modular by design. As Malala grows, we can expand capacity without starting over. That protects taxpayers and positions us for responsible growth. We anticipate the facility going online September 2027. And as promised, when that ribbon is cut, it will be the cleanest celebration in town. Our water intake facility. We are also advancing the design of a new water intake structure on the Molalla River. We do not have a great picture of this project yet, but here's a picture of the Molalla River, our direct source of our water system. The $5 million project will relocate our intake deeper into the riverbank, strengthening our reliability during dry summer months and improving the long-term resiliency. The project is funded through city resources and a $1.90 million federal earmark secured through Congresswoman Janelle Bynum. Thank her for what she's done. Water resiliency is not an optional, especially in Oregon, where we somehow manage to have too much water and not enough water in the same year. Library relocation. Molallas Public Library opened May 14, 1900, and has remained continuously open since that day. That kind of continuity matters. Since 2008, we have leased the space from Molalla River School District. It is time to establish a permanent home. We are designing a new library integrated into our civic center, creating a connected, vibrant public space tied directly to Long Park and other city services. And yes, we intend for it to be a place where you can actually find a quiet corner, which may be the rarest public amenity of all. These projects are not isolated efforts. They are part of a larger vision. Public safety, infrastructure, water security, recreation, education. Molalla is not standing still. We are building responsibly, we are planning intentionally, and we are investing in a future that honors where we come from while preparing for where we are going. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for being a part of Molalla's forward momentum. We're going to open it up to questions. I have one other short speech. If you have questions, our staff, our council are all here at the end of the meeting. Please come up and ask any of us about any of these projects. We'd be happy to answer for you. This is more my speech. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Molalla, Clackamas County's southern gem, where we may be a little farther from the Portland skyline, but we're usually a little closer to common sense. As many of you have heard tonight, the city of Molalla has a number of projects either recently completed or currently underway. None of this would be possible without the strong working relationship between our city council and our incredible city staff. These projects represent more than accomplishments. They represent trust, teamwork, and shared commitment to doing what is best for our community. From earning Triple Crown budget awards, a recognition that reflects our commitment to transparency, fiscal discipline, and long-term planning, to addressing homelessness in our community and maintaining fully staffed and well-supported police department. These successes are the result of people working together and focusing on solutions. Molalla has faced its share of challenges over the years, from the loss of much of our logging industry, to fighting wildfires when outside help wasn't coming, to operating without benefits that come from being part of Metro. But this is a community that meets the challenges head on and finds solutions. What makes me most proud of this relationship between our council and our staff, the people who work for this city care deeply about this community. It's not unusual to see staff members, even those who live outside the city, attending local events on evenings or weekends because they believe in Molalla just as much as council does. Our council and staff
operate with a high level of trust and mutual respect. In many ways, it's a symbiotic relationship built around a simple philosophy. Cities provide infrastructure, and county and state partners provide resources. Partnerships between cities and counties are critical to make that happen and to make the system work. And we appreciate the collaboration that helps communities like ours succeed. We avoid political theater and we stay focused on doing what is best for the community we serve. Our hope is that the way we work together in Malala, council, staff, and public safety shows that when trust, accountability, and teamwork come first, even small cities can accomplish big things. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. It's truly an honor to share our city with you and to show you our slice of heaven here at the southern edge of Clackamas County. And don't worry, we'll send you back north with proof that things aren't happening south of the county line. We hope you'll come back soon. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mayor Kaiser. Mr. Warren, Jeannie, apparently I forgot that we have to keep them online tonight. Are they visible or able to be brought up on screen?
Yes, sir.
Yep. It's like acting.
Remember, I was inside one of the wings, 90% of the time. All right, I'm like, Brad, if you'd like to, on your brand, get off.
Great.
Commissioner Stockton, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello, everyone. I am really disappointed that I could not be with you. It pains me to be not to be in the room, my friends and colleagues. So, but I had a procedure done this morning. I'm doing really good, but I'm not able to drive. So I want to just say thank you to the mayor for hosting this event in Malala tonight. I appreciate that and look forward to participating in the meeting tonight. Thank you.
Mayor Buck?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I echo Commissioner Savis's comments. I didn't have a procedure done, but I am homesick, unfortunately, tonight and missing you all. But thank you to Mayor Kaiser and his council for hosting the group. And it's good to see you all. And I'll tell you, that owl, it zooms right in on your facial expressions. So, and for the record, I am zooming in from Lake Oswego, not Barcelona. So just...
Councilor Sheldon.
I am also not zooming in from Barcelona, but I'm also not kind of feeling under the weather today. So thank you for hosting this, and I look forward to participating online.
And Mr. Silva. Okay, well, if he comes back on, we'll give her one moment. All right, moving into our agenda this evening on ODOT's. Stephanie Miller is going to present in your capital improvement program.
And it's all right. I'd also like to invite Stas as our staff expert on building permit.
Perfect.
There, I'm Stephanie Father with ODOT, and although I've been on this project since November, my knowledge is usually most strong in the development of project lists. I'm here on behalf of the manatees. So I'm going to rely a little bit heavily on these. So these first couple of slides are going to be kind of a high-level overview on the capital investment plan. And they'll get into some more detail later. So the capital investment plan is a rolling plan that will identify planned investments over a 10-year period
and this only applies to ODOT projects on ODOT facilities. How many projects make it in first? We are being informed by the funds ODOT reasonably anticipate from state and local sources. Candidate projects will come from 3 different sources, one of them being asked, with some of you have already been involved. Candidate projects will be screened to criteria. And then after screening, the projects will be reviewed and a list will be finalized. This will create the list with years 1 to 4 already being in the adopting step. Nothing is going to change with that. And this creates years 5 through 10 kind of projects to get ready. So we have a sense of what's coming and we can get better prepared and get better estimates for things that I should have. Slide it. Okay. That. So. Okay. So, once the projects are identified, for the CIT, they'll go through scoping and planning level design. So that we have a portfolio of projects that, that can be managed. Some of those projects will be advanced in the STEM for programming and project delivery. That's the idea. So this is the part where I don't comfortable. These slides will start getting into a little bit deeper detail. So the project ideas are coming from 3 separate sources. One is the acts, who the 12 acts around the state have been invited to each identify 5 projects. And then the other is research doing plans and the studies, looking at existing things that are already out there and highlighting what meets the criteria that we'll talk about a little bit later to advance those into the process. And then the other source is from asset data management systems. So we have information on quality of pavement and the culverts and different kinds of equipment, things like that needs to maintain those. Using the guidance from the recently adopted urban transportation plan and recommendations when they asked, the OTC, Oregon Transportation Commission, developed this series of ways where safety and state of good repair being top priorities for projects that should advance forward. From these goals and ways, indicators were developed in order to score the Neapolitan projects. And so you can see what we're looking at in the state in stewardship to prepare, and then the lesser point categories of mobility, sustainability, and that. A little bit deeper dive here. This slide shows an example of what that looks like to cities. So, the most heavily weighted is places where we actually have shade for circus indexes, and we're looking at the safety priority index system to keep track of those and identify those for us. And then it's like a lower weight, medium weight, would be where we have high risk factors, that's things that we know often lead to problems, and then the lowest weight when something has happened and there isn't high risk factors. So now after scoring, with the scores in hand, the project selection advisory committee will review the project rankings and revise the list. And with this, they'll consider things like urban and rural balance, cost of the project and available funds. You all may be familiar with what ODOT calls the coloring money. So some funds can only be used for some things. Minimum obligations and performance measures. The draft CIP would be ready in fall, and there'll be public engagement at that time. And then we'll just be finalized by December 6th. So this kind of gives an example of how things move through the process. So on the left, you'll see all the candidate projects that could go in. And we're looking at about 150 again from 3 different sources that need to be explored. Not all of those will be selected. So you see the white boxes or things that they get that far. And then we'll move into that development process, which is part of this portfolio management that I talked about. So we'll be doing scoping and understanding and getting more detail about what the projects are. And then eventually those projects that move forward will get programmed in a step over time. This is the first CIP, and it's really a learning process. I've read the interviews from the peer states that we looked at who had already done this process, and it's really telling. They said, they had hoped it would be, 1 year to roll it out and start it, but really it's 4 years to get it up and running really smoothly, but that they're all glad that they went through the process. And questions?
So, Stephanie, why the change in process?
The legislature asked us to improve our transparency and our estimating and do a study in 2024, and then to the follow-up study in 2025 for internal management practices. And those were one of the recommendations that came out of that.
Yeah, it's rare competitor.
Yeah, I'm just curious, is there any precedence on how long ODOT's ignored some of our highways through our cities? Because I can tell you there's 2 cities sitting in this room that haven't seen any paving in 20 to 25 years.
I'm from the statewide program, and I can't really speak to that.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm from the statewide program, and I can't really speak to that directly. I know that there is pavement in poor condition throughout the state. We really like to have it in fair condition, but we are constrained by the available funding.
Right, well, and the 2 cities that are here tonight, and I don't mean to be speaking for Mayor Biancalsi, but we care about our city. We're not looking at the rest of the state. And, it's really hard for us to go back to our constituents or our businesses that, mainly are on these highways, and we're not seeing any improvements coming to it. But yet these very same people, these very same businesses, these very same trucks are paying into the very same gas tax that's getting maintenance and everything else to the rest of the state.
And as I said, I can't really speak to specific examples, but there's your picture.
Yes, go ahead.
I was wondering, in one of your slides, you had something about making sure you cover rural and more urban areas. And so, I guess I want more definition of, are you looking at projects or dollars, or how are you going to make sure you balance that?
Products.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you foresee, or has there been some sort of consensus within the Department of Transportation that this new process is going to bring different results? I mean, is it going to be successful? Do you guys see it's going to make the change?
And should see based on the experiences of other states is better clarity in bringing projects into the step, knowing really what it's going to take. An example that I just took in my mind is unrelated to this process, but it was a community paths program. One of my colleagues managed that program, and they had a successful applicant. And then when they went out and actually looked at the situation, they found really steep slopes and right-of-way issues. And so the application that was successful was very underfunded for the work that was needed to do. So this gives us a chance to say, this is the work we want to, and we're going to take more time to identify what the issues are so that when we start with a cost estimate, we have a better sense of what's current.
It's, which at home when, if you look much.
Thank you for the presentation, Stephanie. It's very useful information to see that this is happening. One question first out of the gate. As you may have said this early on, break that microphone. Who all has been involved in this process that you just presented?
So depending on how far you go back, I mean, the legislature and the Oregon Conservation Commission had the work done in order to come to the conclusion of these are the things that were needed. And then Area Commission on Transportation have been invited to help with the weighting and understanding the pieces, and a lot of different staff have involved. There are 6 different sub-work groups that are working on specific kinds of issues that will help make this successful.
Yes, Dave.
Thank you for the presentation, Stephanie. Question about the goal weighting. So on the slide after the goal weights, it states that results will be shown by total score for each project and the top score in projects by each goal area. So is the idea with the goal weights to apply those weights just at the individual project level, or to end up with a portfolio in the CIP that is representative of those goal weights?
The first one is we won't be looking for projects that only meet certain goals. So it's not like 38% of the money's going to go to street safety projects. That's how the projects are scored. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Jamie Stodney, could you speak to the projects that Clackamas County has either put forward or is on the list?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So,
Sorry to put you on the spot.
no, I'm here. I'm at the table. I'm here to help, and happy to share that information. So, I sat Commissioner Savitz on the R1 Act and have been participating and coordinating with our staff to help support in those conversations. So initially the conversation was, what are the top 5 projects, 3 to 5 projects that we want to move forward? That list came forward from ODOT staff as a proposal, and then the group responded and reacted to that. They have finalized that list, and that happened at the February meeting. The Clackamas County project that is on the top 5 list is the Sunrise Corridor. And then there are also 4 of the projects. I don't have that list in front of me. I remember most of them, Commissioner Savitz set this name up. But I'll just share, there was the next step of the conversation, which was there was a very short time frame to put projects forward. And so Clackamas County worked, each jurisdiction was able to bring up to 2 projects forward. Clackamas County put 2 projects forward. One was out further on Highway 212, 2 different intersection projects that are really needed because a lot of safety issues are going on in that area, just around Damascus. And then the other project is the rhododendron refinement plan. Wanted to have something on there that really looked at the mountain. There's a lot of stuff going on at the mountain, and a lot of safety issues are cropping up there. And so these projects, both of these projects have strong safety elements. So those are the projects that Clackamas County put forward. I'll say just one other thing, which is the only other group that brought projects forward in the second round was Detroit.
Great, good, Jamie. Commissioner Salas.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie, for answering part of the question. And I was going to talk about this under the R1 Act updates, but being that we're here, I think it's probably timely to speak to this now. So as many of you have attended our C4 meetings, you heard a presentation from us and also independently from Amanda Peets with ODOT about this change. And this change will start to be first discussed about late summer. And the Oregon Transportation Commission, I guess the way I view it, has been very proactive in trying to make the R1 acts be more involved and more engaged. So there's a multi-pronged plan, I believe, to get the R1 Act to be more engaged as opposed to what it's been for several years now. And that's really, we've been listening to a lot of presentations, and that's been one of the top concerns about the R1 Act, from the R1 Act membership, is that we want to do more. We just don't want to hear what's happening or hear presentations only. So I think this is a good first step. And I personally thought that the change that will work with it, because the OTC is engaged in this, and for all the reasons I just stated, I think it's something new and different. We can be engaged. So as Jamie pointed out at the last meeting in February, we had of the 15, the first top 5 projects reviewed, discussed, and adopted by the R1 Act members, and some of which are in this room tonight, by the way, around the table. And I knew that the battle, I expected to be that there'd be a battle around the remaining projects, knowing that there's over 25 cities in the metro region. And if the invitation was other jurisdictions can submit 1 or 2 projects, I just felt, well, if everyone, volleyed up one project, there'd be 25 more projects or 50 more projects if you went up to the number 2 for each jurisdiction, not including counties. What I was surprised about Monday evening, however, was that there were only a few projects. Washington County submitted none, and Multnomah County submitted none. It was Hood River that submitted a couple, and Clackamas County that's submitted some. And so we will, the R1 Act, unexpectedly, there was efforts by one of the other counties to limit the number of projects that are already in and abide by the original deadline, which we did essentially. And so the vote was made to cap or to basically not accept any more applications. So those projects that were submitted within the original timeline or deadline are the ones that are on the table, plus the other 10, I believe, that ODOT put on the table originally. So the good news is there is some geographic distribution if you look at the projects in totality. And there's also some that are not really project oriented. They're not project oriented, they're more program oriented. And I'll let Jamie speak about that if she will, or anyone from ODOT that wants to speak about some of the program elements of that. But all in all, you have heard a little bit about this program, about the CIP, and in order to get a project in the queue, you have to have a project that's been identified and it's in the STIP. And that means a lot of work has to be done. But again, some of these programmatic projects or programs that are built in this suggested list of projects may not have to have that requirement. So there's still opportunity for new projects to come in, whether they're programmed in the STIP or they're not programmed in the STIP. And so that's a lot to say, but we'll try it out. And if it works, that's great. If it doesn't work, then we'll be talking about it. But I think everyone around the table, could the people around the table that are on the app raise your hand for a moment so everyone can see you? Okay, so you can see some of your members. So please engage yourselves and some of these members. And if you got any concerns, let's get them on the table tonight. So Chair Hodson, I turn back to you.
Thank you. Stephanie, anything further?
No more questions for me? Oh, somebody wrote those questions.
I just had a quick question. How are you guys dealing with change circumstance after comment for me? Can you keep ones for that? Or we do with the I seems safe you go check this. Is there a way or a method? Yeah, something that works.
I would not say that there's reserve funds available. Things that take the circumstance, I thought meant the funding inquiry. So we don't know yet what the budget is in the state, and the federal transportation authorization expires at the end of this year. They either need to pass a new one or do it into the rest of the state order. So, but for new development, that gets into, other issues like transportation planning rule and, I can't always speak to that. I've got statewide plan and read it. Some experience with, local planning department.
Commissioner Salas, your hand is up again or still up?
No, sorry about that.
Okay, well, I'm gonna call on you anyways. So the additional projects that Clackamas County put forward, do you remember those off the top of your head? Because I do not.
Jamie has those. I think she talked about them just a bit ago. She talked about the project on Highway 26 rhododendron as being one of them. It's a safety project. Been a lot of people in rhododendron that, their only way to get across town from one side to another is Highway 26, and people speed through there. There have been a number of accidents and so forth. So I don't think it's certainly not a really expensive project. But that's one. And I think the other one that I think maybe many of us know about and realize is the crazy intersection at Foster and 212 and Sunnyside and 212. If you know, that's just a weird, dangerous people that are coming, that are going eastbound on Sunnyside are forced to cross a road shortly after an intersection where people are trying to get through the light, and there's wrecks there all the time. And that little road there, Sunnyside, right when it abuts, or where it near abuts the Highway 212 is called Anderson Road. But either way, the point I'm trying to make is that's considered a level F intersection. So it's failing, and is creating a dangerous situation. So those are two that we plugged in. And Jamie, could you speak to the group if there's anything else I missed?
I think you did it really well. I did just want to point out the timing for doing CIP allows a quick update, right? It's going to be done every 2 years, is that correct?
Yes, yeah. I think probably a little work on that. So, the longer term process is that every 2 years we'll be able to revisit this list and flip and get expired. However, this is the loading year, so this is the year where most of the projects are going to be identified.
Yes, Mayor Milch, sorry, it's attack. Go ahead.
Could one of you just give us a little more an example of the difference between what Commissioner Savas referred to as a project versus a program? What are some examples of programs that this system is going to help fund, and how do we see that play out in our regions?
This is a capital improvement plan, so investment plan, and so we're looking at capital projects. When you say program, you could mean a lot of different things. Is it possible that you mean like intelligent transformation system programs or other things like that? Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, the arts program, for example, is already programmed through 2027, so that's not a major this conversation.
So one of the top 5 projects is safety on materials.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a bucket.
What's it?
Safety on materials.
Oh, okay.
And that, I think that's a bucket, or or you use the word program, which means a lot of different things at ODOT. So for the top 5, that's one of the buckets, so to speak. And they'll be identifying some specific projects that would be for safety on our materials. But as Bailey was saying, state of good repair is another one, which would include paving. And that's another program or bucket that will be identified. I know that ODOT and more staff have been talking about that. So I think there are others, but those are the big ones.
So it distinguishes from a particular bridge or a particular intersection to something that will be sort of spread out maybe in several areas in a region, but do a similar kind of work like paving or I don't know, what pedestrian infrastructure on arterials is culverts and bridges. Okay.
Another, but I think also on safety on arterials, it's pedestrian accessible facilities, safe crossings.
Yeah.
So I think there's a bunch of things in there that could apply.
Okay. Thank you. That clears.
Stephanie. you'd said that other cities and other transportation organizations have used a very similar plan or methodologies. We're now rolling out ODOT.
We looked at, I think, 5 other states and did a peer exchange with them on their experiences, and that helped us develop a program that we're implementing now.
Okay, and if I did hear correctly, like the average, like working through and making it work was taking about 4 years.
It takes a little while to get them up and running. I don't know what the average is, but the one that really stuck with me was, boy, was I wrong when I thought this would only take a year.
Yeah. So there'll be some course correction as we go along here in
Yeah,
the next couple of
we're
years.
definitely learning and refining this process to go.
For the group, based on the projects, kind of, we've been following them as this group goes along. Questions or comments about the ones that have made it on the list, and a couple there listed as alternate projects. Some comments, concerns, questions? Yes, Doctor.
On that list that ODOT has for remaining projects, I just want to mention that the blue bridge is on the list. That's not a because that's in Clackamas.
Yeah, those bridges on there. I think there was something like 205. That created a lot of heated conversation from a number of the Multnomah County people, which, as I was just telling Jamie, not based on a whole lot of fact, and whatnot, but won't belabor that with this group. I think we're all on that same page. That 205 is kind of critical to our economic development, the ability for us to get from one side of town to another. But that was wasn't very well received or thought of. The term was, that's a waste of dollars. It was one of the gentlemen from Multnomah County said. So, be able to bring that up at the next meeting. But yeah, that's what we're kind of up against the act. Commissioner Helm.
So, Stephanie, help me out with, I understand that you have identified certain projects, a lot of them are state projects and programs. So how does a city like Malala, who hasn't seen paving done in 20-some years, how do they get on the list when it's not necessarily a safety thing? People are not dying every day, but it's the wear and tear of cars, the wear and tear of trucks, which end up turning into safety factors, obviously. But how do we get to these? How do we get them on a list of at least every few years getting? I mean, I'm trying to get city sec repaid too, because it's not potholes. But there's areas all around that you take a city that hasn't been paved in so many years. How do we get it moved up the list?
For the asset managers have data systems on the condition of pavement, culverts, bridges, and operations throughout the state. And so they're keeping track of good, fair, poor, and we have to report some of that data to the feds. And we also track it and keep it posted on the external ODOT website. So those programs will be putting forward what is next in line to be funded for those kinds of services.
So good, fair, poor is how they're rated, and they basically have the poor mark.
Yeah. I can't speak to the situation specifically.
Yeah.
Knowledge or plus.
Yeah, it's
Commissioner Salas.
Yeah, I appreciate the question for Commissioner Helm, and I called up Mayor Kaiser here a couple, 3 weeks ago about this when I saw an opportunity, and I realized, and I wanted to verify with him that their 211 project was or wasn't in the STIP, and it is not in the STIP, so we couldn't pull it out of the STIP and put it into this as an applicable project. However, I'll ask ODOT the question here now, and I did pose this recently as well, and I don't have an answer yet, but can that state of good repair, for example, apply to Highway 211? Can the safety elements of the ADA program apply to 211? Can we put this together in pieces? Paving, for example, can that be applied? So, I'm looking into that, and I know that Ryan Winsheimer, the Region 1 manager, and I have been communicating about trying to get out to Malala and sit down with at least Dan Huff, the city manager, and possibly the mayor if he's able to attend. And I'm hoping we can coordinate that so we can get something moving on this a little bit, identify ways and means to get that project identified, because I've been a commissioner for 15 years. This has been an issue for Malala that entire time, and it precedes me. I mean, it precedes my role. So it is important, and I think it goes really towards, and ought to be, I brought this up before at the ACT. I know that Mayor Hodson's heard this before, for example, and some of the other members. It's hard for a small city that doesn't have a lot of staff to be all over and on top of these things that require a lot of staff time and a lot of expertise and money to put a project forward. We're competing against very large cities in the urban area that have tremendous staff support. So that disadvantages almost every city in Clackamas County because we're all smaller, but we do have some robust staff, in cities like Wilsonville and Oregon City and Lake Oswego and Westland, et cetera. But, we're fighting an uphill battle. And I just hope there's a means to level the playing field. And I think everyone who wanted to see the R1 Act take ground and actually become an act had hopes that it would help give us a fairer shot. But I think we still have an imbalance. And I appreciate Councilor Pratt pointing out, how do we get that balance of urban and rural? Because that is a key issue that comes up all the time. And I know she's heard it. I know she believes in it. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Stephanie, Jamie, we left anything out or questions that we haven't asked that we should be asking?
It doesn't need to be resolved tonight, but to put a bug in your ear, how do we be more organized, more prepared next time the CIP is reopened? So that we can show up at the even better version. It takes on stuff they pick up.
Thank you, Steph. Appreciate it. Yeah. Jamie, ask that question again.
So, now this is ODOT's very first time during this process, and it happened very fast. And it begs the question of if this is a recurring process every 2 years, how would district like be better prepared for next and more workshops?
The new process is not going anywhere. Well, at least the foreseeable future. So that will be cut off guard by the changing process. Maybe as we kind of know what the playing field looks like, what do we need to do differently? Yes.
Yeah. I think now that we know it's recurring, I don't see why we ahead of the game have this group in front of the R1 Act representatives of what projects are the priorities for this group. And we can, I think we kind of knew anyway, but I think it would be good to have those and know that there's support for those to take to us to advocate for that.
Or you say something, no, it's like going through your placard. No, if you went. Yeah, I think you're right. Like this group, making sure that we're staying ahead of the curve. And what are those key priorities for Clackamas County? This is going to be looked at more frequently than what it has been. We keep prioritizing and looking at that. What's front loaded? What are those historical projects that haven't seen any action? Are they going to ever, we need to Yeah. We use Sunrise Corridor as an example. We took a lot of medium drums to get phase one done, and now, we're looking at doing that for phase two, 205, and another one we bought a lot more, same are fighting for. So I think it's just, again, I think Jamie for staff, I think it's going to be a lot of just revisiting that list. That's still priorities. For Clackamas County. Yes, sir.
I guess the one thing that I would take from this is that obviously continuing the conversation in advance of when ODOT's going to be asking for those projects, but also constantly communicating about these smaller projects that will never get on the list and how can we put those together in a bucket. So constantly thinking, all right, we want to do a safety overhaul of pavement in this area of the region and the county. So ensure that we're working together, more systematically every year, well in advance, so that we can pool some of those together to hopefully get those on the list as a larger project. Would be helpful.
I think it's a very good one. I think something too, and this is, we're ahead of schedule on this. We're way ahead, but I'm going to put it out there on the table. Is a question about the in terms of project works, in terms of where funding goes. Bones Bridge is a good example, pretty good project. Rose Quarter, Interstate Bridge, those are big dollar amounts that the state is putting towards. Or when we look at on, I guess, the Region 1 Act area of funding, do we as a group support funding going to bigger projects that might take a while to amass the funds to see any movement? Or do we want to champion, to your point, those smaller projects that we maybe cobble together for a bigger one or whatnot? Because I think, again, conversation that we have had, at least in the city of Canby, is sometimes, if you start, you've got to create momentum. And so if you're tackling smaller projects to show that you're putting forth the effort, you're getting the work done, might be to those bigger projects sooner. I guess I just asked this group, as we're looking ahead, what's kind of our direction of, great, we're going to keep socking dollars away to get big gains on one project or smaller gains on smaller projects. So yes, ma'am.
Well, I have an interest in Boone Bridge.
Absolutely, so do we, yeah.
And we all do. But I wish that we could find a balance. I really wish we could address some smaller projects. I wish we could prioritize, those key larger projects, them moving forward, because it takes forever. At the same time, that hold back that small projects. It's a balance. If the Boone Bridge was fully funded today, it would still take 7.5 years to complete. So, and we were able, I thought, this past legislature to keep the 1 million we got. It was subject to the budget cuts. So we were able to maintain that. We're trying to get that fairly more matched. But it's a big fight. So for all of us, I'm here to but we got to find a way to work together to cover that. And I don't know, I'm not the right person, River, you got to find a way.
No, that's a great point, Mr. Mayor, that it is. It's how do we keep about what's that balance? And has there ever been that balance? I don't, or go to hope, but you have to what's that balance? And just this corner alone, it's a lot. It's been a lot to fight for projects, maybe more, even signal lights in our inner city. So, Mayor Kaiser, then I'll go to Commissioner Sagas again.
I think, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll come to you, Paul, in a second. Go ahead, Mayor Kaiser.
You brought up a project that's kind of been buried on a lot of people, Master Secret. There's been millions and millions and millions of dollars wasted on the project or plan that could have gone to many other projects. And there needs to be some way of monitoring these projects when it comes to how much is waste in planning and engineering. Because if it gets to that point, then I think those projects need to be put to the side until there's some organization properly.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Saunders.
Yeah, I just want to build on a couple things the mayor said, and that is that the idea of maybe identifying to large projects and small projects and medium projects and different types of modality projects, if you will, is probably, a good idea. But I'm going to go out on a limb here maybe, and I know that no one wants more work, but I think this part of the conversation shifted to what can we do to be more effective or to get our projects identified. And I know that, whether it's C4 Metro or this group, we try to get behind an opportunity comes up, we try to get behind 2 or 3 projects or 1 or whatever, and we do it as opportunity comes along. But and each city, of course, and the county all have their own RTP, our plan, transportation plan, a TSP, and we use those TSPs. And of course, we're independent; we're required to do that, and that's fine. But we come to the table here as a group of jurisdictions fighting for a better Clackamas County. And I like the fact that I heard we a lot of times. How do we do this? And I just want to build on that. So, crazy idea. I'm not on a limb here, cut me down. But I'm just wondering what if we put together a small transportation improvement plan or our own list of projects of all different scales and modalities that we would like to see. It takes some time to maybe prioritize that, and then we can balance out like who's been in line for a long time, or is it rural, urban, all those, if there's any inequities, how do we balance that out? But I wonder if that gives us, if we had a list of projects that met some of those requirements, that gives us some standing and our legislative staff, both at the county and at the city, some leverage to build on. Thoughts, anyone?
I think it's a good idea. It is a lot of work, but actually, I think if we all go back to our cities, and I know that, since we are in the city of Malala, I bet and I'm looking at you, Mr. City Administrator, you probably have a list already downloaded on your computer that you could just hit print and give to Mayor Kaiser and bring to the next meeting, and we'd have the list.
Just to do this.
Yeah, I think it's a student. Yeah, so the same goes for my city administrator as well. Pretty sure you as well? Oh, yeah. Okay. Rory, does your city administrator have a list of road projects already?
Roads, water, we have 100 million Excel. Get that on.
Mr. Morrow, Oregon City, they got a similar list already? Indeed. Okay, so it seems like to me that work's been done, Commissioner. The heavy lifting will be all of us getting around a room and fighting over whose project gets listed higher, which is always the case. So, Trish Allen.
Well, no, I would agree with Commissioner Soppis and also to build on what Neil said. It's trying to make it more equitable. And I think if we all saw the needs and even if it wasn't on a level of, good for whatever medium, that I think we're sympathetic to other jurisdictions that have either gotten less than some of the other ones. And I think seeing some of that, now this is a JD question, who puts this all together? I think this is an awesome idea. And I think everybody already does have this in their own jurisdictions, and maybe we have the county level as well. Because then we also have the unincorporated area that we have to not forget about, because they're part of this too. So I think seeing it all on one map would be really helpful in your spare time, Kate.
Yeah. Yes. So I really appreciate this conversation. I think this is the kind of collaboration and forward thinking that will allow us to be strategic. And I think that's really exciting to hear you all talking about that. It's not a small, easy endeavor, as you're imagining, and there certainly will be some tough conversations. It doesn't happen overnight either, but I think it's something that we can work toward as staff, and I know JP has some ideas about that.
Well,
Well, it just so happens that this group of the annual summer. We'll talk about it, but that would be one for us to have some of those harder, deeper, longer conversations. Also, something sakes, the approach, also not the ways needed. So we do have the luxury of being very thoughtful.
Sorry, Jake, Mayor Kaiser is talking trash down here to me.
I was gonna say, speaker retreat, it's this big like event.
It is now.
I was just commenting how you scraping your table down.
So it's funny, they say Jamie and I get a 2-for-1. And to pick on Trent, I mean, this short session is just about done, so a little free time. It should totally help, right, Trent? We working on the transportation factor, can you jump on the Carlex project? Fabulous. There we go, okay. All right, anything else on this matter? Yes, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I'll preface this by saying I love the Sunrise Project and I think it's great, but I'm wondering at what point is that no longer the Clackamas County project? It seems like every list, every letter, that is the number one, as has been demonstrated by the list that was just presented to us. So this is the Clackamas County project until it's fully funded, whether that takes 10 years, 20 years. I think that gets into the equity issue and to what Commissioner Helm said about unincorporated communities. We heard at our last meeting about how the county TSP only focuses solely on the unincorporated areas, even though many of us in the cities have areas that are very much affected by unincorporated residents coming through and having an impact on our city transportation systems as well. And so, yes, there is a need to focus on the unincorporated areas, but we also need to make sure that we're looking at this holistically. And so I'd like to know when that change of focus may occur.
Yeah, I can try and take a stab at that. It's tricky, but I'm gonna steal a phrase from Trent, actually, that I love, which is, I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. And big projects like the Sunrise Corridor take a long time, as Mayor Neal was saying, to build momentum, to build support. They take consistent messaging. We know this. And we're just starting to build some of that momentum around phase 2, the Sunrise Corridor. We have a build grant in right now to build the next phase. Our board has an implementation goal to build the next phase of the Sunrise Corridor. So we're really focused on moving that forward. And I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time and start working on that and finding pathways for projects. So the other thing I'd say is we're really evolving the way we think about working toward bringing in external resources or funding at the county right now. Different grant programs are fit other projects better, right? The criteria for different grant programs will suit certain projects better than others. And I think once we have this list and understanding of like what folks are interested in, that would be an interesting thought exercise to kind of go through and say like, oh, this project would be a good candidate for this funding source, and start to think about it that way, and then kind of tee things up for support in those arenas. The big projects like Sunrise and Blue Bridge are going to require a huge influx of funds, right, to be able to be completed, and those grant programs, federal mostly, right? So they're kind of teed up in those buckets. And there's a whole lot of other programs that are available. So I think we can think about it in a lot of different ways, but first we need to know what are the projects, what criteria do they meet, and then try and support each other.
Also, worth noting that C4 is supported by its own technical advisor, CTAS, the Clackamas Transportation Advisory Committee, and every jurisdiction around this table is a Senate staff representative. No firms like staff representatives, agent length, come see me after the meeting. Actually, you put that on that mailing list, and maybe CTAS would be a great place to start. That is that list. You're getting the staff expertise of where troubles actually like well.
Hey, Jamie, you guys speak into the mic a little more next time.
I'm sorry about that. We love CCAP. Let's start with that.
There you go.
Mayor Belch.
I'll do what I sometimes do, beat the drum for the importance of connecting land use with transportation too. I always wonder, I live at the west end of the Sunrise corridor. And I always wonder if, you know, if you put a Costco in Boring and a Kaiser Permanente in Sandy, could you cut the cost of the Sunrise Corridor project in half? Because you're essentially eliminating a lot of the reason why people want to drive back. So let's think about land use. Let's think about where we need to have things in our more distant areas to slow down that need to get into other areas of the county.
That's a dangerous conversation down there. Let's see, you want Costco?
No, at this point, if it gets it done, maybe.
Yeah. All right. So,
It's Sandy, everybody in Sandy talking about it.
yes, Costco?
Oh, yeah.
Talking
Yeah,
about-
there was rumor that there was one. Yep, it's a rumor constant rumor, yeah.
Okay. Well, I know they're always looking for locations, so you know. Great. Yes, Jamie.
Mr. Sass.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Commissioner, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say thank you to Commissioner Morrow for bringing that point up. And maybe we could, I'll just add a layer of this to just think about it. And that, number one, ODOT projects on ODOT facilities are just that. They're ODOT projects and ODOT facilities, which is different maybe than projects that are our responsibility that we own, right? So it's probably not, as effective to put the Boone Bridge in Wilsonville's TSP, even though it's certainly part of their transportation conundrum that they face. But so that's one way, one phase, or perhaps one way of looking at it. The other one is that historical. I mean, if we start the clock, let's just say I've been around 25 years. The Sunrise Corridor preceded me. It's 40 plus years, but if we started the clock or in a 25-year period, Oregon City got some huge ODOT related projects, as did other jurisdictions, right? We've seen, and I think not having that historical perspective, I think is important, because how else do you define equity if you don't look back and say, when was the last time West Lynn got a good project, right? Or Lake Oswego, and was it a state ODOT project, or was it an ODOT facility, or was it a city project? So I think that's the kind of analysis we can do to try to justify and balance out the table, so that we're looking at this in a broad sense. But thank you. That's my comment.
Now that brings up an interesting point, Commissioner, in that, ODOT, I would even go ODOT projects versus county project versus city projects. It's different buckets of money, different jurisdictions, can be fought long and hard, and county's been great about partnering with us to take over county roads within the city so we can own them and take care of them, right? So, there may be more of a striation to our this conversation. Commissioner Howland, then we're going to move on.
Yeah, and I think too, to that point, if we could simplify this, I mean, obviously everybody can bring their entire TSP to JB and say, these are our wish lists. It's like, pick your number one small knowledge project. Figure out number one, ODOT or local project, and just keep it super simple. Like just did each priority. So if you were to put a pin on a map, you'd have 3 colors for each jurisdiction and help identify, the most important ones, so that it can get really complicated really fast. And I want to keep it as simple as possible, but I think the visual will give us a lot of very useful information.
So Jamie, I think, so Lorenzini, definitely executive group conversation on Monday, going forward. I think we will get our retreat coming up. Well, that might be a big conversation. Okay. All right. See, we went to be 20 minutes ahead to just one. All right. We're going to move into C4 business. Just designate you their lives. Ms. Lorenzini, you're going to take us through the key elements here.
Again, in the interest of trying to clear work, very good. Okay. So the interest, actually some of these slides out of your notes that you have packet. But tonight we're going to do a brief overview of support because there's members around the table. We're going to talk about the executive committee, do some caucusing, and then we're going to talk about engagement rate. Are there any questions? No? Okay. And the way background speaker is 25 years old. We are now old enough to rent our boat, reaching along young directors. We're founded in the more proficient and been starting at four partners. Though we were inspired by Washington County Coordinating Committee, we are different. Washington County Coordinating Committee is specifically tasked with distributing local transportation dollars to its cities. But C4 looks much more at how to coordinate around issues that we better not limited to transportation. We also talk about things like land use, housing, and homelessness. Prior to the evidence or a preference, they had local government summits, the private stage of our directly limiting. Our primary functions of C4 include things like building relationships with pre-agencies, getting organized on the use of transportation plan with the CIP. We talk about multi-jurisdictional issues like housing and homelessness. And finally, we externalize our shared positions. C4 crushes it here, recognizing your framework around issues like tolling in the state transportation funding package. This group has been really good about common us. Some of the ways that's manifested over the last 7 years have figured out things like actually bottleneck, talking about the SADS corridor. C4 is also instrumental in talking about county vehicle registration fee and a portion of that set aside from the GIGS projects. And pretty recently, you've also been involved with their housing assessment. And so, let's see more. And C4 can broadly be distilled into 5 different county groups. In the right group, we have Clackamas County and its operating areas. We have the city that is the metro versus drug boundaries, commonly described as urban cities. And then we have the cities outside of the metro versus drug boundary, those are our rural cities. We have our special districts, and then our statistical members, which are members that are outside Clackamas County but still have an important role in our community. The work of C4 is supported by several technical groups and committees. We'll talk about a couple of them tonight. Some of those I like though are CTAC, who's on the earlier, the Clackamas Transportation Advisory Committee is your staff support committee. We do a lot of things, but oftentimes they get to see the presentation before this perspective. And they get much more in the weeds. They talk about funding issues and make recommendations to the transportation. And as I mentioned, if your staff is not currently on the committee, come visit the after meeting, you're okay on the list. Environmental is another common advisory group can see. This is a pre-JPAC, pre-NPAC coordination rule. That the Metro Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation and the Metro Policy Advisory Committee, which is the land use side. These are topics that are exclusively limited to the areas in the metros or regional country. And it's an important nuance that is not a voting body, but the group may develop recommendations that can be dashed to the forefront. And for tonight, the biggest one I want you to remember is C4 and executive committee. The executive committee guides the work of the whole C4 body, and it's comprised of 6 representatives, including county commissioner, 1 representative of urban city, 1 representative from a rural city, a rep from the fire district, water and sewer districts, and 1 from the Hamilton City. Our executive committee, you can read it, this diplomatic. Yeah. So I also see Christian status and we have a few more. The executive committee meets virtually on the second Monday every month at 6:30. bring that up because tonight, in a moment, we are going to bring in the caucus groups that I'm going to ask you to reappoint or nominate your representative to the executive committee. And the main responsibility of the executive committee is setting C4 agendas, planning our treaty, and supporting the ongoing of the C4 body. When I bring you into your arts in the moment, to give us about 5 minutes, and then as soon as you make your decision, it's just sit down. That'll be my second way right for me. But how I like to push this out is to have our CEOs of the annuals together by this way forward, to have our world cities meet back by the hotel, have our urban cities head over to the exit so that we can have our water and sewer together. Directly up front. Are there any questions before we break out? No. Okay. I'm going to have our groups and also here to activate switch from those groups. Please feel free to join your questions. So back to okay, ready? We're going to start reporting out our representatives. Urban cities, who is your representative?
Michael Milch, reappoint for you.
Mayor Hudson. Yep. I see in the chat that Sherry Run is accepting both water and sewer votes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sherry. Our fire district, I didn't get no insurance. And thank you so much for your continued service. And Commissioner Thomas, I see your hand is up.
Now I can go over I'm power.
Okay, hand it down. Commissioner Salas will continue to be on the executive board. Thank you all. We're going to jump into one more setting.
I accidentally had my hand up, so I apologize for that. And if I couldn't hear, for some reason, my audio somehow went down. So if I missed something, please restate it.
Our new executive committee includes Mayor Milch, Mayor Hudson, Sharon French, Matthew Zelda, and yourself. Anything simple? Oh, and CTOs. CTOs and Hamlin. That was yes. I'm the only one. All right, and we get Hamlin. I didn't know that. I didn't know he did this job. Eddie gave it to me.
Hey, it's really good.
Okay, really briefly, I want to talk quickly about our retreat. The annual retreat is set over 2 days every year. This year it's happening over June 5th and June 6th. We are in the process of starting to scope out the agenda. And these are really opportunities to discuss topics that are too large or outpriced, too deep our reports for the regular like tonight. I have been keeping tabs over the last few months on all the different topics that have come up from various sources. And tonight I'm going to get your first pages on that list. Kind of all the way through each section that is our writing questions, and then you're to the next one. Probably finish the list. I'm going to ask that any of these topics resonate for you. If I can feedback to executive committee and scoping those topics. I will come back to you at an engineering or form chat. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay, so some of the topics that have emerged over the last few months. I have heard interested energy use and regulations. I mean, this is a request that came from one of our CPL groups. And then I have a presentation talking about how our energy needs are increasing with the advent of artificial intelligence and where much more than what we have that. But what's that long term? Our executive committee has also raised interest in economics of accessory dwelling units. I'm thinking more creatively around these shop clocks that are emerging at the state level could pre-approve plans across agencies to one tool we use to help address that disturbance. And then also looking at what does the cross look like between jurisdictions? I have also great interest in talking about the moderate and revolving loan fund from representative in Milwaukee, but I gather this big shorter topic. And there has been concern raised from a process issue for a reroute boundary expansion. Always coming from friends in Multnomah and less frequently with that. Kaiser, could you maybe summarize that in a sentence or two?
Actually, I will pass it off, but busy leave. Yeah, I'll pass it on to our city manager. He knows what the whole topic was about. Our assistant city manager was going to give a speech on that tonight, and we got cut short a little bit because of the agenda. So go ahead.
I think the main issue is the main issue is that inside the metro area, all have different rules and regulations regarding the boundaries affecting out. So you don't have the process of expanding to extend the boundaries to, for example, provide additional housing opportunities. We have to go through a fairly rigorous process of standing SDK law, and Handy has to do that. Part of the issue is the governor has the benchmarks of creating housing, or at least increasing the opportunities to create housing, because build. But DLC's regulations actually work against doing that. So those are the troubles that some of the four cities outside the metro area are dealing with. We're right in the middle of it. We've been working on it for 3 years now. We don't have really any unincorporated areas around our city. Inside the UGB, we don't have it. So I'm not sure how we're going to meet benchmarks if we have the UGB. Yeah. And we're going to talk to you all about that tonight. We have covered. So we might be subject to C4. Aaron Elgin.
The other thing I thought I heard part of that conversation is that you wanted to do expansion to the south, and they said it's better to do to the north, or vice versa, and that was another thing. So it's also your autonomy in terms of making that decision on what works best for your cities.
Got it. Absolutely.
Okay. Which was it? I came up on Malala Road, and to the right of me was like blank farmland. I thought you could put 4,000 houses there. And is that where you're saying you want to grow, or where do you go?
The state wants us to go to the south. Okay.
Yeah.
There's no infrastructure, there's no pipe. There would be, 5 sewage pumps to pump it uphill at $3 million east. Whereas to the north, one of our biggest subdivision is Big Meadow. It butts right up to where we want to extend the UGB. So the infrastructure's there. Our transportation, I would say 95% of it for our bus service goes to Oregon City. It does not go to the south. And then ODOT has come in with letters stating that the roundabout that most of you probably went through when you came into our city, it wasn't built big enough when they built it a few years ago. Well, the subdivision is to the north of it, and most of all our business traffic goes to the north. So it's been kind of a weird situation, and we keep getting shut down with really good ideas.
Here's a lot of really interesting process. Does the group feel like they could pull some creative to that? Yeah.
And we still have another year left on it, if everything goes okay.
Okay. So I'm going to jump quick, keep us on topic. Jumping down to the transportation topics. I had the opportunity to do to see back this morning, so this list and forward feedback for that. Some topics that came up previously at the Seymour staff level and its interest in hearing for 2027 legislative sessions, where it's more likely that we'll be talking about a transportation package again and how to strategically position ourselves to be competitive. At CTAC, there was also an interest in supporting coordination between transit providers and what cities can do. There was interest in improving our metro transportation coordination around a variety of different topics. And then more broadly, just interested, how do we be more proactive for the 2027 one section? It's not on this list, but based on what I heard tonight, there's also strong interest in how do we prepare for that CIP cycle and other types of grant back coverage is. So that in mind, just as a first goals, are there any topics on this list that I was talking about? Yes, I would love to come talk about this for the
Transportation partners,
Yeah.
the travel.
Right. What about on the land use side?
Yes, I will say that I think we want to talk about, how basin guardrails in place for data centers. Based on what we found out in DC last week, they're coming in fast and furious, and they're third party, privately owned, and they're trying to do it as quietly and stealthily as possible and use our resources. And we found out there's, some states that are letting them in are requiring that they reduce water, that they supply their own power, that they don't draw from the grid. So there were a lot of really good ideas out of NACO last week. So I think we need to look at that sooner than later because it's happening so quickly.
I think that energy can be said that part of it's not necessarily gas, just the energy conversation. Is a bit the other shower. Well, power upgrades.
Okay.
Commissioner Chavez?
Yeah, another thing, as far as an emerging topic on the land use side of things, is that the West Side Economic Alliance has been partnering, doing a land use, industrial land study. And so that took off here a while back. And recently at MPAC, there was a presentation on that topic. And I won't get into the MTAC meeting itself per se, but at the same token is that, and I think the bill's dead, I heard, but there was a bill just recently that would have changed the urban rural reserves in apparently the metro area, as I understood it, primarily the metro area, nowhere else. And then Clackamas County has for about a year and a half, 2 years, I guess, we initiated a land use study for, again, to work on our industrial lands. And recently, in a very, I would say tense, but a kind of, I guess it was kind of tense, back and forth I had with, one of the leaders in the region about this. They said, well, Commissioner, when that land use, with that land deal in Washington County, and that land was taken out of Clackamas County to go to Tigard, you didn't have one city that proposed a project. And my point was, yes, you're right. I recognize that, but we were trying to leverage for years the Sunrise Corridor because we have a lot of land there, right? So you can't hold us accountable for not building housing and not building industrial and not having those lands ready if the region doesn't okay the Sunrise Corridor, which benefits everyone. It doesn't just benefit unincorporated Clackamas County or Happy Valley. I know that Estacada is a big benefactor of that, as is people that live in Sandy. So it's got a regional impact. But the point of the matter is that on the land use side, you have three different land use efforts coming together at the same time. And I pointed out to them, I go, this is wrong for having a bill out there that is solely focused on the urban area when we have cities like Estacada that are growing on the edges, have opportunity, and Malala was asking for more land for years now. So we ought to be having a more holistic look, especially if we're talking about changing rural reserves to urban reserves. I think that's one of our problems on the east and south side of the county that I think are surmountable. I think we can make some gains there if we all work together. I just want to put that out there, that conversation is happening, and I believe the bill's dead. That one bill's dead, but still the WA effort's happening and the county effort's happening. So those are two ongoing issues. Thank you.
Excellent. I think this is a really big jumping.
Sorry, Mayor Buck is standing as well.
No, sorry. On the transportation topic, the cities of Westland, Sherwood, Tualatin, and Lake Oswego are collaborating on a kind of a research and study of what alternative options could look like, and it's a comprehensive body of work that we're just getting going on, but there might be information from there that is worthwhile discussing further at the as a topic.
Todd, I'm gonna put you on the spot. One of the transportation things there is the coordination between transit providers. Is there issues?
Depends on which provider.
Is it a conversation topic that needs to be?
It's always a conversation topic. I mean, as you probably are aware, most of the cities in Clackamas County are not served by a system. They're served by TriMet recently made major cutbacks that has pulled transit away from a number of cities and a number of areas that used to have it. And there's been a lot of ask for those of us who run our own cities, how can we help fill the gaps? So I think that's, there's a lot of gaps and they're getting bigger.
So is that to me, again, transit, you're right, ODOT's not done us any favors in Clackamas County for a long time. It's an worthwhile conversation for us to have.
I think figuring out how to help cities get more transit, especially in Clackamas County, is a very worthwhile conversation. So I think you're going to see less as finances get tighter and more long term.
Thank you, Jim.
One thing I'd like to ask is, if we do have this topic, as far as the city goes, or at least mainly the council, we have really zero conversation with our transit provider.
Yeah.
And it would be nice if they would maybe show up to, talk about the subject. I couldn't tell you who they are or what they look like. I've never had any contact.
I can help you.
Okay.
I will work on that for you.
That would be great.
Yeah. That's very good.
I appreciate it. I should want to put you on the spot. Other conversation pieces, we had a pretty good request from Mayor Kaiser about the EV process that obviously stays up there. Keep it up there there's a placeholder for now and we'll see where it goes.
It would be taught by our assistant city manager. He's much more articulate.
Well, particularly like what Commissioner Savage just said about some changes in the way some of the reserves are done. In the context of all of that, we might want to get really on the same page so that we can be supportive.
Okay, no, second, Mayor, appreciate that, agree. Byron?
Well, I think terms of the big issue about the state, so if this is being held up, it's good for us to have that education to know that we can push with that.
Good deal. Okay. Last bite of the apple here for now, once, twice. So.
Okay. I can jump in and do last one.
Yes.
So the CBAR is a lot of parameters for us to provide to work. In terms of experience and discussions and the coverage toasting breast, much information as possible. And I'm gonna show off how to your I'm gonna make our release this year. I think your hands are not up, they should be up, but it's the first. Thank you. Okay, excellent, thank you. Registration is going to be opening up in April. In the past, we've done registration exclusively for PDFs, emailed or mailed to us in English. Last year, for the first time, Kaiser did an online registration instead of a online payment system. I'm curious if the board wants to continue that or if you're more comfortable with the PDF registration system.
Andy?
Virginia, go ahead.
Dennis, I'm good.
But no strong preferences there.
Do as you did last year. You did requirements work.
Jumping. All right, thank you.
Great, Thanksgiving. Update other business, legislative updates. Well, I comes up there. I can talk loud. No, you don't have a microphone. Hi, Jen. Want to sit here next to you?
Same.
You told me that if I got you on. It's time, right? Okay. All right, the legislature is projected to end tomorrow. I don't want to make it happen or not make it happen, but they're on pace to do that. I would say the session is really, the overtones of the session is really focused on budget struggles at the state level. And I would say that we are just at the beginning and that we should expect a couple of years of hard budget times for state agencies. So prepare yourself for that. Everything this year was about economic development. And y'all probably know the phrase, if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So if everything's economic development, nothing is economic development. It's just going to take some time for, I think, the state to strategize around what they want to do to bring jobs into the state. So work with your legislators, work with communities on what you want to prioritize in your areas. That's going to be really helpful to them. They'll focus a lot on transportation and jobs, so I'm going to do that super quick. On transportation topics, you remember back in January, the governor had the big 3 R's. It was, well, she wanted to rescind the transportation package, but we changed all that to be reschedule the transportation package. So the bill to move the vote from November to May passed through the Senate. So that's going to be in May unless there's something that happens, court case perhaps. The other R was to redirect funding from House Bill 2017 so that ODOT could keep jobs. That's Senate Bill 1601. Take a look at that. But if there was loose change in ODOT's budget from programs from 2017, a lot of those dollars are moving over towards maintenance and preservation of ODOT system. You will see a huge reduction in programs that you're familiar with, including Safe Routes to Schools in Connect Oregon and Charlie Connections programs. So if you were looking forward to some of those projects or budget funds in the next couple of years, that money will be hard to come by. And so think about that. It's projected though that those programs are not dead, just that for this biennium, those dollars have been moved over. So something to think about there. And then rebuild. So we're already talking about the transportation package for 2027. We are expecting, I think very soon, some sort of release from the governor's office on how they want to stage a series of conversations throughout the rest of the year to prepare for the transportation package. I'm hearing a lot of energy about transportation needs. And so what I would invite you to do is think carefully and strategize together on what you would prefer, what the state would prefer in a transportation package. I think we've gone through about 12 months or longer of what we don't prefer on how the transportation package is built. And so we have an opportunity to do it the way that everybody wants to do it in Oregon. There were a few other transportation bills, but they were really, nitpicky. They both system changes, but if you have questions, I'm happy to answer. Yes, there are a couple of jobs and land bills that you really want to pay attention to. It's kind of set the stage for what Oregon wants to do next. Y'all already talked about some of those, so I'm not going to go over it unless you have questions about specific bills. But what I would say, and invite you to do, is to kind of get to this, just get organized around what you want, because there will be massive, I think, land use legislation in 2027. And so that's my expectation. And I would invite you that if you have a land use need or something that you think is preventing you from building the houses that the state's asked us to build, or moving jobs into your communities, which I think we all want, then now's the time to get specific, because I think it'll happen really fast. I think those bills will come up really quick. They'll have sponsors and groups that support them. And I think you want to be part of those and have some ideas and how you want to be involved. That's just my opinion. There's a couple of bills that affect y'all just as elected officials and as jurisdictions that the OGEC has, made it challenging for some local jurisdictions in particular to operate. So take a look at those. They are moving through the session. So that's a serial meeting bill. There's a local government experience seat now that will have to be on OGEC. So if someone with your voice will be there to help guide that council. And then there's one about food not being a financial gain. So no hot dogs excluded, of course, but I think, food provided in meetings like this might be able to continue in the future. And then for those of you who are worried about not having enough pennies because they don't produce them anymore, and some of the providers are hard-pressed to find them to give them to you, the state passed a rounding bill for your free to use if you don't want to pass your own local ordinance. So take a look at that. That's House Bill 4178, and I think that would be really interesting to your treasurer or your accounting team that you can't find any pennies in the next couple of years. Outside of that, I'm here to answer any questions. I know it's kind of here for the last.
So in terms of economic development, what the state wants to do, is this about attracting businesses from outside of Oregon to Oregon or more moving them around the state? Because Canby will gladly take more businesses from Oklahoma County.
Clackamas is a little bit closer, so we're just very kind of keep them here up in the northern part of the county.
Data warehouses.
You need to just write down.
There's some really good conversations around data facilities where they make sense. A lot of the urban areas were really concerned about what they do, the land, and there's not enough jobs in the space. But then there are rural communities on the Eastern Oregon who say, you know, those 11 jobs, that's 10% of our population. That's a really good deal when you have a job like that. So there's some give and take to how big Oregon is and how unique it is. So just some patience as some of that goes on. I think at the county, right, a lot of it is like, what can you do in your community to encourage jobs, keep jobs, grow jobs? Do you have land to, if someone's starting a job, are they able to grow? Do they have space to grow? Or do they have to leave? Do they not have what they need to stay here? Is that why they're going? Or is it something else? And so I think the legislature and the state and the Prosperity Council that the governor put together, they're open ideas. And I think they're looking for ways to make Oregon open to business. And if you guys have ideas in your communities, let's get them changed.
Don't put plants in the businesses.
That's got to be coming to you.
All right, thank you, Trent. Good to see you. JPAC update.
I can give that. The last JPAC, a couple things of note we talked about. Metro is in the process of kind of renewing their permit as a planning organization, and there's different criteria the state wanted them to comply with, and they're making those changes. And one thing that those of us, and Commissioner Savas and I in particular, have been advocating for is, well, the one thing they have on the list is just adding another transit provider, a rural transit provider, to TPAC, the technical group that advises JPAC. But Commissioner Savas and I would also like to see that's fine. That would be great, because right now it's just TriMet. But TriMet also has a seat at the JPAC table. We'd really like another transit provider to also have a seat at the JPAC table to represent those perspectives. As you guys know, the city seat of JPAC for Clackamas County does represent SMART. So I technically fill that role, but it's really difficult for a city representative who's not from Wilsonville to represent Wilsonville's transit service. It's kind of crazy, right? So we're going to continue pushing for that, and Metro's continuing to go through that process. And then we also heard an update. I guess it has been a handful of years since this came before JPAC, but believe it or not, they are still pursuing this high-speed rail from Vancouver, BC, down here to Portland, and then through Seattle to Portland, and then maybe even to Eugene. And they received about $50 million in federal funding to complete this phase that they were reporting on. It kind of, obviously, without saying that this is an extremely expensive project, there is no alignment for it. It's not using the existing, it's separate from the existing Amtrak service, so they'd have to acquire the entire line. Anyway, as we've been talking here tonight, like these projects that we just can't get done, it was honestly, my internal reaction was, what are we doing here? But this is being led by the state of Washington. The high-speed train would be great, but again, we can't even get the bridge built or accomplish the widening at the Rose Quarter. So anyway, those are the updates.
Thank you. And Beth.
I'll take a stab at it. I know this is backwards tonight, so thanks, Mayor Buck, for doing the JPAC one. So I sat in on Commissioner Helm's behalf. She was in Washington, D.C. with the Board of County Commissioners. So I sat in, as I mentioned earlier in the conversation about the land studies. I mentioned WEA. WEA did make a presentation, and there were discussions about, again, the land use aspects of this, and I won't repeat that any further unless there's questions. I do have the other thing that came up was my notes here. The Metro Council's Economic Development Work Group, they provided an update to that. And missing one page here. There we go. And sometimes you just can't read your notes. Industrial land study. I guess that was primarily a whole lot on the land use study aspect that we talked about, and different presentations and conversations about that. So I think that was the gist of the meeting, and no action was taken that evening.
R1 Act, we spent a lot of time talking about that. I don't think we need to say any more. Do you, Mr. Thomas? We're good on the R1 Act stuff? Perfect.
Yeah, I think everything you heard tonight, I think is relevant when it came to the R1 Act conversation. I did want to clarify that Ryan Winsheimer, the Region 1 director, called me here several weeks ago about getting together with the mayor. So, and what I think that simultaneously to that, parallel to that, I didn't have a chance to go into great detail, but was my conversations with Mayor Kaiser with regards to, is it a STIP project or is it not a STIP project? And it turns out it was not. And as I was trying to plug that into a potential project for an addition. And so that was that. There's discussion right now coming as far as changing potentially in coming meetings, statewide, changing the construct of the R1 Acts as far as the bylaws and the mission and the charter. And as you all, some of you who are around know, and most of you were not here at the time, but that was not just a contentious challenge in Clackamas County, but the entire region. And if they just simply want to streamline OTC, if OTC simply wants to streamline the bylaws and the priorities in there, that's great. But I know that every act in the state is going to be impacted by this if they actually change how and who we elect to represent our counties. And we do it different than Washington County, and we do it different than Multnomah County. So each county, Hood River included, has a different process for how we elect our members. So I think hopefully we can leave that sacred and leave that as is. If there needs to be a tweak that doesn't conform to state law, great. But I just want to alert you that that conversation is coming in the future. Thank you.
Right. Anything in the order? No. One quick note. Round of applause to the city of Molalla.
Supermajority of counties here is, I don't know who's in charge, but we used to go once a month to county dinners. And so some kind as a state, but our objective in place, are we getting ready to start as then?
This is it.
Then,
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll bring it up at the exec session and have that conversation.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get a startup on to get to where once a month we can go to cities and do solution process.
Yeah, we'll bring it up on the exec session. All right, Mayor Kaiser made a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, perfect, we're adjourned. Good night. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, no.
Oh my goodness, please, thank you.